Attention, this video will contain some spoilers for Endwalker and Shadowbringer raids. I will also be using music from Stormblood, Shadowbringers, and Endwalker. As the title says, in this video I'm going to share some of the knowledge I've collected over my time playing Final Fantasy XIV. I play mainly as a DPS job, but these tips should apply to all the roles in the game. Most of these topics have been covered in other guides around the internet, but I want to reiterate on how important some of these are. This guide will have a more general approach, so we won't get into optimization inside the jobs. I won't go over HUD layouts, keybinds, or any of these settings because I think that's a more personal preference kind of thing and shouldn't influence on your overall damage. I might throw a few numbers at you guys, but I won't get into the details on how things works. It's gonna be just for demonstration purposes. And with that said, let's get over with the guide. In Final Fantasy XIV, everyone has the job of doing damage in some capacity. While some roles' main priority is to soak damage and others to heal said damage, they also have to contribute to the total damage done towards the boss. Remember, this is a cooperative game. We are trying to help each other achieve the same goal. Just throwing some random numbers, if you open some logs, you can see that healers and tanks together can sum up to 30 or even more percent of a total encounter's damage. So do not blame only the DPS when your team doesn't reach a DPS check. Maybe check if other people are also doing their job of doing their roles and also doing damage. I think this is probably one of the most common tips when it comes to doing damage in Final Fantasy XIV, but I think I should bring it up as well. Always be doing something while in combat. It doesn't matter if it's wrong or not optimal rotation. Doing something is always better than doing nothing. Most jobs have tools they can utilize to keep doing damage or gathering resources while dodging from the mechanics. Some jobs have even better disengage abilities. Ninja, as an example, can utilize ninjutsus to throw ranged attacks, being able to keep their own rotation running naturally with a minimal DPS loss and dodging mechanics at the same time. Just as a side note, if you are playing a job that has a dot, such as Dragoon, Samurai, or even a healer, remember to keep your damage overtime running, as they are a pretty big part of your damage. Do not beat yourself up if you cannot keep it running all the time. Sometimes leaving it for a few seconds, it's fine, it's not the end of the world, but remember to keep it applied as much as you can. So, a quick explanation before I go into the topic. Skills that have a global cooldown are called GCDs, and skills that don't follow this global cooldown are called OGCDs, or off global cooldown. And another quick explanation, an animation lock is when you have to wait before you can perform any action after using an ability or skill. So keeping on the subject of always casting something, we have to remember about the so-called OGCDs. They are pretty much an extra layer of things that we can press while you wait for your GCDs to come back. Usually you control about 2 of them before you have to do another GCD, but that will depend on your job, spell, and skill speed and the animation lock presenting these abilities. So as an example, most of the Dragoon's jumps can be done one after another, but you cannot do Stardiver with another jump because of the long animation lock, otherwise it will be delaying your next GCD. This is what we refer to as clipping. You can try to practice by doing one ability in between your GCDs until you are comfortable enough to start doing 2 of them. Never go past 2. You will always end up clipping yourself afterwards, even if it doesn't look like you are most likely clipping yourself. That tip goes especially to tanks and healers, since they have to weave their mitigation in between their normal rotation, so be mindful of that when doing your damaging rotation. Most jobs in Final Fantasy XIV have some kind of gauge that you have to look over and be mindful of when in battle. These resources allow you to use different skills to do damage, but what does overcapping exactly means? If I need to give an example, Ninja has a Ninki gauge that goes from 0 to 100. This gauge feels as Ninja does their normal combo, and as soon as we get to 100, which is the cap, we are not feeling the gauge anymore and we are throwing away precious resources that could be used in the future of the fight. Overcapping can happen to GCDs and OGCDs. In the case of Dragoon, their Spine Shatter Dive is an ability that can hold 2 uses. By holding them at 2, you're wasting future uses of the ability. Try to always keep the cooldown rolling on those, using them before they reach their limit. So as a general DPS rule, use things as soon as they come off cooldown, even your big 120 second ones, and don't let your resources overcap. Every job has their quirks, but most of the time, just using them whenever they come off cooldown is already enough for your whole party. Positionals are a mechanic that nowadays are exclusive to melee DPS jobs. It will increase the damage of a skill based on the position of the player against their target. A target's rear is indicated by an opening in the target ring behind the target, and the flank can be indicated by the size. You can also refer to this image for a rough estimate of where the flank and rear positionals are indicated. They can be done either far or close to the target as long as you are in the range to do your skill. Although positions are really important for your overall DPS, do not favor a positional over your life. While they are a DPS game, don't take a damage that could be avoided just to do a positional. You could potentially get killed, wasting yours and your healer's resources. You could also end up getting a damage down debuff, which is a far greater threat to your DPS than missing your positional. For times like this, try to use True North stacks, which guarantee your positionals for a few seconds. In case you are not aware, most mechanics in Final Fantasy works with the use of snapshot. In simple terms, their server takes a picture of the game when a mechanic is about to happen. If you were inside of it, doesn't matter how good you are, doesn't matter how fast you go, or even if the animation takes 2 or 3 seconds to show the boss hitting you, you will get hit. So by utilizing this knowledge, some people came up with the tactic of greeting. Stay inside a danger zone until the very last second, where they move out and then back inside, not taking any damage besides the animation of the attack still happening. Greeting can be a double-edged sword. In one side, you get more damage. It shows that you understand the mechanics of the game and how your job works, but on the other side, you could end up killing yourself, or worst of all, your entire party. You can definitely learn how to greet. Slowly try to get out of your comfort zone in lower end content like normal raids and alliances, learning how the snapshot works and slowly build up confidence, but always try to remember to avoid doing it when it can be fatal to you or your party. This is also another very common tip among guys, but I will repeat it nonetheless. Even if you know your job already and have a general idea of your rotation, a lot of people have no idea what their buttons really do, other than just remembering the order you have to press them. Reading your tooltips will not only make you understand your job better, but will also make you come up with better solutions when things get out of hand. Fun fact, did you know that Ninja's trick attack has increased 100 potency when done from the rear? Well, I played Ninja for over a year without knowing that, so I could have gained a little bit more DPS just by taking 10 seconds and reading my damn tooltips. As much as we like to learn things by ourselves, sometimes a little help is always welcome. Read or watch guides for the jobs and roles you like playing, watch POVs, and practice. In my honest opinion, learning your opener goes a long way when learning a job. You make sure that most of your cooldowns are aligned for the rest of the fight, especially the ones used for burst phases. Also, you can try asking questions. There's no shame in asking a friend or a veteran player some questions about your job. Sometimes a simple tip can be enough for you to figure out all the rest by yourself. Don't be ashamed to ask, even if it sounds dumb. Probably the most obvious tip, but try to play the job you want to get good at as much as you can. Practice your rotation at a training dummy and see where you are failing at. By failing, you can discover how to improve. Some examples might be like, hey, I cannot get this button inside my burst window, maybe I should ask a friend how to do it. Or, hey, maybe if I don't use this button here, I will have enough gauge to use the next button, which is more important, right here. Another piece of content that is probably one of my favorites for DPSing is called Stone Sky Sea. It's a set of solo trials against striking dummies. Those dummies have HP points based on which fight you are practicing for. Those are great to benchmark your own DPS and can be used as a natural DPS meter. I'm gonna link in the description DPS calculator that utilizes those dummies. And another quick tip for the people that are practicing, you can join a unrestricted duty and leave right after to get your cooldowns back up for when you're practicing. That makes all your 120-second cooldowns and including pot and food to come back up. In Final Fantasy XIV, we have passive buffs that come in the form of food and tinctures, or so-called pots. Food gives you a passive buff that lasts for about 30 minutes but can be increased with FC buffs or using rationing manuals. Tincture or pots also enhances your status but for a short period and while in combat. Those are used usually in burst windows so to maximize the use of the enhancement. So the question then becomes, when should I care about using food? And I'm gonna give my honest opinion on this, and I think most people will agree you should be using food buffs whenever you are in a high-end duty, so anything above an extreme trial. Mostly for their vitality enhancement, which makes not only your healer's life a little bit easier, but will also make you survive some of the mechanics. Pots are a little bit different. They don't have to be used in high-end content, but they certainly help. And again, in my opinion, you should be using them when you are going for clear runs. Most encounters will use up to 2 pots at a time, and by the time I'm recording this video, some of the pots are going for 3000 gil on the market board, so don't waste them on prog. And one last note, try to use high quality pots and foods whenever possible, since their stats are way better than their normal counterparts. Materias are pretty much buffs to our gear stat. Most gear pieces in Final Fantasy have 2 slots that you can use to meld materias into them. As of the recording of this video, the highest tier are materias 9 and 10. I won't be diving too deep into pentamelding since those are optimization for early savage raiding and not something that fits into a general guide. So when should I be melding my gear? And the answer is pretty much the same as for foods and pots, whenever you are doing high-end content. Think of materials as free damage that you have given yourself. When does damage really matter? Is when you start having encounters with DPS checks. The other question will be, which materials should I use? Well, that will depend entirely on your job. Most times you're gonna use tier 10 materials, but you're gonna have to follow a build for your specific job. Some jobs have different skill or spell speeds that you want to use, or some other stats like piety. I would say that you should probably let the people that do the math do their work, and you just follow what's best for your job. There is usually a stat priority for each job, so you can try follow those to make your own melds if you wish so. I'm gonna be linking in the description the Discord for the balance, which you can find guides for every single job, and they have the stat priority for all the jobs, including guides that go more in depth about each and every single job in the game. I hope this guide helped you in any shape or form. I always have fun trying to improve myself in this game. I have fun trying to figure out ways to increase my damage and how to squeeze every little bit of DPS that I can. But there are times I need to remind myself I'm also a human being and prone to errors. So don't beat yourself over if you end up overcapping a little bit of resources, if you miss a GCD, fail a mechanic, or even just miss a positional. There are days and days, maybe today is not your day, and maybe tomorrow will be your day. Try not to burn yourself and try to just enjoy the journey. If you keep practicing, I'm sure you can too achieve your goals in this game.
No! I got it! My misery.
Hey, congrats, guys.
Yay!
Everybody.
Yay! We did it!
We did it!
Let's go!
Let's go!
Go! Holy shit.
Woo!
Well done, everybody. Clean. Oh my
Clean,
I died
hell
during
yeah.
the
Congratulations,
Yeah, let's
Fritz, on your
go.
first ultimate.
Hey, what's up, Fritz?
Let's go, Fritz. A legend.
Hey, yo!
You did it.
Oh, we all look so
Yeah.
good too.
This
I'm shaking so.
this fucking shot, it just
fucking
zoomed
much.
in on Siesta in a tank top. It's like,